you mind if we have this on your birthday? I'm like, free food, great heart, good people. Yeah, I can do that. So, I'm really glad that you guys are here. We know with the weather scare and everything, so for you to even show up today, thank you. And I would also like to thank the band that's here, Boone County Rembrandts. What a great name for this show. I'd also like to thank the Montminy Museum. They have just, I mean, Chris opened his doors to us, and this museum was the first museum here in Columbia to show my dad's artwork in a very, very long time. And I'm going to talk to you about a few things about my dad and some of his artwork. Many of you know my father. Some of you may have only heard of his legend. I always ask people that come and they say, "Oh, I knew your dad." And I'm like, okay, so you either loved him or you hated him. And there was probably no in between. Hey, Mr. Stewart, how are you?
I agree.
Yeah. So the thing about my dad, he was just this creative man, and he came from so many different backgrounds. A lot of people do not know this, but my dad actually grew up a good old farm boy, good old Kansas farm boy, and he would tell all of us kids, and you know, all of us kids that have families like this would be like, well, we had to walk to school and cut our own damn chickens, and you know, the whole thing. You know, my dad would always tell us about the stuff that he had done just, you know, on the farm in Kansas and when he grew up. But boy, you know, I really did a great article with the, what show was that, Ethan? The Evansville show?
The Edwardsville,
and,
yeah.
You know, one of the articles, if you don't get a chance to read that, go to the website and look at it. Because one of the things was that paradox for my dad. You know, being this good old boy country, you know, guy, and then being an artist as well and trying to live in that world. And, you know, and that was really, for a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people understood how difficult that was for my dad sometimes. You know, he would be in this academia world, and then, you know, he felt at home with his people. But he was also a jokester and an ornery guy. I see a lot of smiles because a lot of my friends are here and a lot of family members, and we all know that Jimmy Joe could always play a good prank on someone. And if you've never been pranked by my dad, just go to bed and say your prayers and say thank you, God, because he was something. You know, one of the things, as I looked through the show and as we were getting the show together, you know, a couple of things that people always ask questions about are some of the pieces of artwork. So one of the big ones is this whole Captain Jim series. Now, it's sort of like, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if it was the hat or the story, but my dad had this hat that he would wear around campus, and it was a captain's hat. And people picked up, started calling him Captain Jim, you know, and so my dad loved that. And I think he may have started that a little bit for this series that he was going to do. The thing about my dad is you never knew. My mother has a famous story about when she first met him, and I won't get into all the details of that, but she decided to go around the campus of the Kansas City Art Institute and ask about my dad. And she would tell us kids, you know what? I never got the same story. Sometimes he was married, sometimes he had kids, I heard that he was a gangster, I heard he was and most of these stories were made up by my dad. So he had many, many aliases, but Captain Jim was one of them. And Captain Jim, he's in the very back corner if you haven't seen him, he has this time machine, and that's the object that's in front of him. And this time machine would take him to these great adventures. My father had the most marvelous imagination, as you can tell. And so when you go on great adventures, you got to have sidekicks, right? I mean, everybody, when you go on a great adventure, you rarely do this by yourself. So Wolfhead's Boy was his sidekick. Now, you'll see Wolfhead's Boy, the actual beginning of Wolfhead's Boy in the corner in the back. And I have to tell you, this was a little... we were a little distraught as children because Wolfhead's Boy sat right in the front of our corridor. So when you open the door, there he was in his shining glory. And needless to say, Ethan, Arrow, and I did not necessarily get to have a lot of friends over. Because it was always like, they can come visit us, but we're not sure about the stuff in their house. So, but Wolfhead's Boy and Captain Jim did a lot of adventures together. They found Alligator Girl, who was at a show before. They found the Conchmere Monster, who was half man, half woman, and had baby monsters coming out of his breast. They had lots and lots of great adventures. And Tad would tell us about them as he put pieces together, and we would talk about Captain Jim and Wolfhead's Boy, and it was great, wonderful memory, you know, for all of us. those kids. As I walk through here, you know, one of the famous Captain Jim and Wolfhead's Boy painting is over there. We're very, very thankful that the Sedalia State Fair Museum allowed us to bring this painting over for show. We have not seen this since Ethan and I were kids, and Arrow was just a little baby when we saw this, and we were so excited, and I'll tell you why. Back in the day, we got Best of Show at the Sedalia State Fair. And so the Best of Show was $1,500. And you know, my parents did a really good job of trying to make ends meet. They had 3 kids, and they were, you know, trying, you know, to make things work. And when we got that, my whole family was just like, oh, we're rich! You know, it was like we didn't know what that kind of money looked like, and we were so excited. And you know, that was a really special time in our lives, and being at the fair, and you know, getting to show your friends, oh, my dad won Best of Show, and you know, I was working that, right? That's my dad. There's so many different things that are in here I could talk about. I was telling a friend of mine, the rattles that you see on the back podium there. One of the things that was so funny is we have when I was working at a hospital here, it was a very long time ago, we had a CEO whose name was Marmy Narden, and I was, as someone from Columbia, I was supposed to show her around. Now my father would do all kinds of crazy things, and we just never knew where you were going to find my dad, right? So I'm driving this new CEO around, showing her all the places, and she asked if I would take her to the nearest dry cleaning. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. Unfortunately, right by this dry cleaning was a dumpster. So as I took her out, showed her, and my dad jumps out of a dumpster. He's like, Sarah, look at these cans. They're great. They're going to make the most perfect rattles. And I'm like, Maureen, this is my father. So at any rate, Dad would do all kinds of crazy things like that. The whole reason that we wanted to bring the show to you guys is the 37 Days Till Spring. And so again, in the good phrase tradition, you could talk to Arrow, my younger brother, you could talk to me, you could talk to Ethan, or you could talk to my mother, and you're going to get a different version of the story, because that's just how we phrases do that, okay? There's always a truth somewhere in the middle, but it's loosely threaded sometimes. But my dad would, before spring would come, and like many of us are feeling right now, at this point in life, the sun needs to come out. Spring and summer need to get on with it, because this is just too much. So he would always do his spring, his drawings or paintings before spring. Now, if you were really lucky enough, and I have fond memories of doing this, is my father was a very private man. He didn't like to show a lot of people his artwork, and he didn't do shows for a very long time. But I remember many times coming over, and he would say to me, Sarah, you want to see what I've been working on? Those days, those days were my lucky days. To sit down with the man and the genius and my father, and to get to talk to him about what those things meant. Those were beautiful moments, and we got to do that often, and I always enjoyed seeing this particular series. So not all of these are from the spring. There's so many pieces of artwork that we could do this art show 20 times over. There is just, you can't imagine, and thank you to my brother Ethan. I really do have to say that he is our president. And he's done all the framing, and he's really, he had the vision. And I can't thank you enough, Ethan. He's just done a beautiful job cataloging the work and getting everything together. And I'm always so proud to have a brother like my brother Ethan. And Arrow could not make it today, but he sends his well wishes to you. And we're very proud to have Arrow in the family and be a part of our family. And then, of course, my mother sends her love. As many of you know, my mother's been in the hospital for the last month and a half. And it's been a kind of a trying time for the phrases, but she is at the neighborhood now, and she's doing very well. She's looking forward to hearing about everything that's going on. And then, again, thank you to all of you. And Chris, thank you again for inviting us. This is a great show. I see a lot of university professors here that I grew up with, and they looked after us. I think everybody at the university is like, those poor Froese kids. We better keep an eye on them. Because I did. It took a village to raise all of us, and the art faculty at the university has always held a dear place in my heart, as well as the many artists in this area, and our friends and our loved ones that are here. So enjoy the show, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you.